In the grim darkness of the far future, there are beings that transcend the mortal coil through sheer force of will and the miracles of ancient technology. They are the walking dead who refuse to die, entombed warriors who have fought for so long that their names are spoken with reverence across entire star systems. They are the legendary Dreadnoughts of the Adeptus Astartes, and their existence is both the highest honor a space marine can receive and the cruelest fate imaginable. When a Dreadnought becomes a legend, something profound shifts in the fabric of a chapter's identity. No longer is this warrior simply a tool of war or even a revered elder. They become something more, something that exists beyond the boundaries of normal existence. They become myth made manifest, history given form, the living bridge between a chapter's glorious past and its uncertain future. To understand what this means requires diving deep into the darkest corners of the Imperium's military tradition, where duty and suffering intertwine so completely that they become indistinguishable. The legend doesn't begin with glory, it begins with catastrophe. Picture a battlefield so violent, so utterly consumed by carnage, that even the enhanced physiology of a space marine cannot withstand the onslaught. Bones shatter like ceramic under hammer blows, organs rupture and fail. Flesh is torn away by explosions, by alien claws, by weapons that should not exist in any sane universe. The warrior falls, and in that moment, death should claim them. Death would be a mercy. But for a select few, for those whose deeds have marked them as truly exceptional, the chapter's apothecaries arrive with a different fate in mind. The selection is never random. The technology required to create and maintain a Dreadnought is irreplaceable, dating back to the dark age of technology, when humanity's mastery of science bordered on the miraculous. Each Dreadnought chassis is a priceless artifact, and the knowledge of how to construct new ones has been largely lost to the grinding passage of 10,000 years. Therefore, only warriors who have proven themselves worthy beyond all doubt receive this dubious honor. Chapter masters, captains, legendary heroes whose names are already carved into the halls of remembrance. These are the candidates for internment. The chapter cannot afford to waste such precious technology on anyone less. The process of becoming a Dreadnought is a surgical nightmare that borders on the heretical in its violation of the human form. What remains of the warrior's body is carved away with clinical precision. Limbs, already ruined, are severed and discarded. Organs that cannot be saved are removed. What's left is little more than a torso, vital organs, and most importantly, the brain. This remnant of humanity is submerged in amniotic fluids within an armored sarcophagus, a womb of metal and ceramite that will become both prison and fortress for however many centuries or millennia the warrior has left to serve. The neural interface that connects the pilot's consciousness to the Dreadnought systems is a marvel of biotechnology, but it comes at a terrible cost. Every sense the warrior once possessed is replaced. Eyes that once beheld the glory of the Emperor's Imperium are replaced by optical sensors that reduce reality to targeting data and threat assessments. The sensation of touch, once a reminder of humanity, becomes nothing more than pressure readings on armor plating. Sound is filtered through acoustic sensors that prioritize tactical information over the subtle nuances that make conversation meaningful. The warrior doesn't pilot the Dreadnought so much as become it, their consciousness gradually bleeding into the machine, until the line between flesh and steel becomes impossibly blurred. When they first awaken in their new form, most warriors experience a moment of profound disorientation. The last memory is of dying, of pain so intense it transcended description, of the certain knowledge that their service was ending. Now they find themselves looking at the world through mechanical eyes, hearing through electronic sensors, speaking through vox grills that turn their voice into something harsh and inhuman. They reach for hands that are no longer there and find weapon mounts instead. They try to breathe and hear only the mechanical wheeze of life support systems. This is the moment when many warriors scream, and that scream echoes through the halls of the chapter's fortress monastery as a reminder of the price of continued service. But the legend doesn't truly begin until that first battle, when the newly interred warrior is deployed to prove that they are still the hero they were in life. This is the crucible that separates those who will fade into obscurity from those who will become living myths. The Dreadnought strides onto the battlefield, and immediately the tactical situation changes. Enemies that were pressing forward suddenly hesitate. Allied forces take heart from the presence of this walking fortress, and the warrior inside, still adjusting to their new existence, discovers that they are no longer bound by the limitations of flesh. The weapons mounted on a Dreadnought's chassis are devastating beyond what any infantry can wield. Assault cannons that fire hundreds of rounds per minute, each one capable of punching through armor that would stop a normal bolter round. Power fists that can crush battle tanks with the ease of crumpling paper. Heavy flamers that turn entire squads of enemy infantry into screaming pyres. Missile launchers, lascannons, plasma cannons. The arsenal available to a Dreadnought is limited only by the chapter's resources and the tactical requirements of the mission. And the warrior inside wields all of this with the tactical acumen of a veteran who has fought in countless battles. When ancient Rylanor strode onto the battlefields of the Great Crusade, he was already a legend among the Emperor's Children Legion. He had fought beside the Emperor himself during the Unification Wars, earning battle honors like Roma and Thula that were etched into his armor as permanent reminders of his valor. When grievous wounds from an engagement with the Eldar left him on the brink of death, his internment in a Contemptor-pattern Dreadnought was seen as entirely appropriate. He was too valuable to lose, too experienced to let slip into the oblivion of death. As the Ancient of Rites for his legion, Rylanor presided over the ceremonials that transformed new recruits into full battle brothers. His wisdom guided the Emperor's children through their most challenging campaigns. His presence on the battlefield was a guarantee of victory. But Rylanor's legend would be forged not in the fires of the Great Crusade, but in the betrayal that followed. When Primarch Fulgrim led the Emperor's children into corruption and heresy, Rylanor remained loyal to the ideals he had sworn to uphold. At the last moment, before the Dropsite massacre on Istvan III, he traded places with Captain Saul Tarvitz, ensuring that he would be among those targeted for betrayal rather than safe among the traitors. When the virus bombs fell and the loyal Emperor's children were massacred by their own legion, Rylanor survived. His Contemptor chassis protected him from the weapon that liquefied the organs of tens of thousands of warriors. And there, on that dead world, he waited. For 10,000 years, ancient Rylanor endured alone on the corpse of Istvan III. The isolation should have driven him mad within decades, but his hatred sustained him. His purpose, refined to a single burning point of vengeance, kept his mind intact when sanity should have crumbled. He converted the weapons of fallen Noise Marines into a psychic beacon, a lure designed to attract one specific target. And when that target finally arrived, when Demon Prince Fulgrim descended to the planet to gloat over his ancient servant, Rylanor enacted his revenge. He detonated an unexploded virus bomb at the precise moment Fulgrim tore his organic remains from the Dreadnought shell, defying the Demon Prince's offers of power and renewal with words that would echo across the millennia. Rylanor's final act transformed him from a loyal warrior into something more, a symbol of incorruptible defiance that inspired even the Chaos Space Marines who witnessed it to momentarily question their own paths. This is what it means to become a legendary Dreadnought. It's not simply about surviving for a long time or killing many enemies. It's about embodying principles so completely that your very existence becomes a statement. Rylanor's legend endures not because he destroyed a demon prince. He failed in that goal, but because he proved that even 10,000 years of isolation and madness couldn't corrupt a warrior who truly believed in his cause. Every Blood Angel's successor chapter that maintains a Death Company knows the story of Rylanor. Every Imperial Fist who contemplates the meaning of duty references his example. the legend spreads far beyond the bounds of a single chapter, becoming part of the larger mythology that binds the Adeptus Astartes together. Consider Bjorn the Fell-Handed, whose legend is perhaps the greatest of all living dreadnoughts. Over 10,000 years ago, Bjorn fought in the personal retinue of Primarch Leman Russ during the Great Crusade. He witnessed the glory days of the Imperium, when the Emperor still walked among men and the dream of a unified human empire seemed achievable. He fought in the Horus Heresy when that dream died and brother turned against brother in the bloodiest civil war the galaxy had ever seen. When Leman Russ disappeared into the warp searching for a way to heal the Emperor, Bjorn became the first great wolf of the Space Wolves, leading his chapter through 5 centuries of warfare before age finally began to take its toll. But even then, death was denied to him. The Space Wolves' Iron Priests interred him in a venerable Dreadnought chassis, and for another 10,000 years, Bjorn has continued to serve. He is the oldest living loyal Space Marine in the entire Imperium, the only being who can claim to have personally known the Emperor and survived to tell of it. When he speaks, his words carry the weight of millennia. When he counsels the current Great Wolf, it is with the wisdom of having witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations, the birth and death of entire chapters, the slow grinding decay of everything the Imperium once represented. The Space Wolves only awaken Bjorn in times of dire need, or at the dawn of each new century for the Great Feast, where he holds court and recounts elements of his saga to his battle brothers. These awakenings are treated with religious reverence. Every Space Wolf present, from the Great Wolf himself to the youngest Bloodclaw, gathers in absolute silence to hear the ancients speak. His memories are the chapter's living connection to their Primarch, to the days when the legions numbered in the hundreds of thousands and the galaxy trembled before their advance. Without Bjorn, these memories would exist only in fading records and questionable histories. With him, the past remains vital and real. But what is it like for Bjorn himself? What does it mean to be the oldest living loyal warrior in the Imperium? The records suggest that even Bjorn, despite his legendary mental fortitude, struggles with the weight of his existence. He has watched countless generations of Space Wolves live and die. Brothers he trained as Bloodclaws rose to become Wolf Lords, led companies in glorious campaigns, earned sagas of their own, and finally fell in battle or succumbed to age. Meanwhile, Bjorn sleeps, awakens, fights, and sleeps again. His existence reduced to brief windows of consciousness, separated by vast gulfs of darkness. The mental strain of extended neural interface with a Dreadnought chassis is well documented by the Mechanicus. Conditions such as lethargy, confusion, dyschronometria, the loss of ability to accurately perceive time, and even senility affect even the most stalwart warriors. The human brain, enhanced though it is by Space Marine augmentation, was never designed to exist in this state. Every moment of consciousness requires the pilot to suppress the natural revulsion that comes from having no body, no physical form, beyond the metal shell they inhabit. The machine spirit within the Dreadnought itself sometimes resists the pilot's commands, creating a constant low-level struggle for supremacy that grinds away at sanity like water wearing down stone. For most Dreadnoughts, this mental decline is inevitable. They begin to forget details of their former lives. The faces of old comrades blur into indistinct memories. Specific battles blend together into a continuous stream of violence and death. Some warriors cope by retreating into themselves, becoming cold and mechanical in their thinking, approaching warfare as nothing more than tactical problems to be solved. Others rage against their fate, becoming increasingly violent and unstable, until they can only be deployed in situations where their berserker fury will be directed entirely at the enemy. And a very few, find ways to preserve their humanity through sheer force of will, clinging to specific memories or purposes that anchor them to who they once were. This is perhaps the most tragic aspect of becoming a legendary dreadnought. The very thing that makes them legendary, their incredible longevity, their participation in battles across millennia, their accumulation of wisdom and experience, is also the thing that slowly destroys them. Every awakening takes a little more of who they were. Every battle fought erodes another piece of their personality. Every century in stasis is another gulf of emptiness that separates them from the living warriors they once were. The legend grows stronger as the person behind it grows weaker, until eventually nothing remains but the shell and the reputation. The reverence that chapters show their legendary dreadnoughts reflects both genuine respect and a kind of guilty awareness of what has been done to these warriors. In the sacred halls where dreadnoughts sleep between battles, Tech Marines perform daily rituals of maintenance and blessing. They anoint the armored chassis with sacred oils, inscribe prayers of protection onto the hull, and carefully monitor the life support systems that keep the organic remnants alive. These aren't simply maintenance procedures, they're acts of devotion, acknowledgement that these sleeping giants are more than just weapons. They are the chapter's honored dead who cannot rest, its greatest heroes, who have been denied the peace of death in service to the Emperor's eternal war. When younger Space Marines visit the sleeping dreadnoughts to pay their respects, they do so with a mixture of awe and something that might be fear. They know that one day, if they prove themselves worthy enough and unlucky enough, they might join these sleepers in their endless vigil. They see in the silent sarcophagi both the promise of eternal service and the threat of eternal suffering. Some chapters, like the Blood Angels and their successors, have entire rituals dedicated to honoring their dreadnoughts. The rite of sanguine rebirth performed when a Blood Angel is interred is both a celebration of the warrior's continued service and a mourning for the life they have lost. The Space Wolves, ever pragmatic, hold fierce wakes before internment, celebrating the warrior's life with tales of valor and casks of Fenrisian ale. They acknowledge what is being lost even as they prepare to preserve it. The ritual is a reminder that the man going into the dreadnought will not be the same as the being that emerges. Something fundamental changes in that transformation, and no amount of celebration can hide the melancholy that underlies it. These rituals serve the living as much as the dying, giving the chapter a way to process the complicated emotions that come from offering a brother both salvation and damnation in the same act. When a legendary dreadnought is called to war, the very atmosphere of the chapter changes. These are not deployments made lightly. The risk of losing such a valuable warrior and irreplaceable machine is weighed carefully against the tactical necessity. A legendary dreadnought represents not just powerful weaponry, but also accumulated centuries or millennia of tactical wisdom, historical knowledge, and spiritual authority. Their loss would be catastrophic in ways that transcend simple military calculation. Therefore, they are awakened only when the situation is truly dire, when the chapter faces enemies that require the absolute pinnacle of its martial might. The awakening process itself is a carefully orchestrated ritual. Tech Marines gather around the sarcophagus, performing the rites of activation, while chaplains pray for the safe return of the warrior's consciousness from whatever dreams have filled the void of stasis. As power flows back into the systems, as life support returns to full function, as consciousness slowly reasserts itself, there is always a moment of uncertainty. Will the ancient awaken clear-minded and ready for battle, or will they emerge confused, lost in memories of battles fought centuries ago? Has the isolation finally broken them, turning them into something that must be immediately sedated and returned to sleep? For some legendary dreadnoughts, every awakening is a struggle back to sanity. They emerge screaming, their vox systems blaring incoherent rage at a universe that has continued without them. Ancient Itako of the Carcharodons chapter provides a particularly stark example of this phenomenon. When awakened for battle, he doesn't respond immediately to the chaplain's calls. There is a moment of terrible silence, where it seems the ancient has been lost, his mind consumed by the void of dream memories he spent so long swimming through. Then he awakens with a howl of purest, frenzied rage that sounds part human, part machine, grating and grinding from his vox grill in a way that shatters traditions and serves as a horrifying reminder that what resides within the Contemptor shell is far removed from the warrior that once was. Yet even in this state, these legendary warriors retain their tactical brilliance. Once properly oriented to the current battle, once their rage is channeled toward the enemy rather than the universe at large, they become exactly what the chapter needs them to be. They stride onto the battlefield and enemies break before them. Their weapons speak with the voice of the Emperor's wrath. Their armor shrugs off fire that would destroy lesser vehicles. And inside, the consciousness that has endured for so long focuses entirely on the one thing it still understands completely: war. The battlefield impact of a legendary Dreadnought cannot be overstated. When Bjorn the Fell-Handed strides forth to war, entire companies of space wolves fight with renewed vigor. They know they are fighting alongside a living piece of their history, a warrior who fought beside their Primarch. Enemy forces that might have held their ground against normal space marine assaults falter and break when faced with something that has been killing their kind for 10,000 years. The psychological impact is as devastating as the physical destruction the ancient wreaks upon them. Consider a typical deployment scenario. The Space Wolves face an overwhelming Orc invasion. Greenskin forces number in the hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions. Their crude but effective weapons and vehicles are pressing the Space Wolves back toward their fortifications. Casualties mount. The situation becomes desperate. This is when the Great Wolf makes the decision to awaken Bjorn. The ancient warrior is brought forth from his sepulchre in the depths of the Fang, the Space Wolves' fortress monastery. As he powers up and his systems cycle through their activation sequences, word spreads through the ranks. Bjorn walks. The Fell-Handed has awakened. The old wolf goes to war. The impact on morale is immediate and profound. Space wolves who were preparing for a fighting retreat suddenly stand their ground. Those who were holding defensive positions begin planning counterattacks. And when Bjorn actually enters the battle, when his ancient, venerable Dreadnought chassis strides through the Space Wolves' lines and engages the Orc horde, the entire character of the battle shifts. The Orcs, savage and brutal as they are, recognize true threat when they see it. This is not merely another metal box to be swarmed and torn apart. This is something ancient and terrible, a weapon of war that has been perfected over 10,000 years of continuous conflict. Bjorn's assault cannon speaks in a voice like thunder, each shell precisely placed to cause maximum devastation. His power fist crushes Orc warbosses with contemptuous ease, their crude armor offering no more protection than wet paper. But more than the physical destruction he causes, it's the tactical acumen he brings to bear that changes everything. Bjorn has fought Orcs on 100 different worlds across 10 millennia. He knows their tactics, their weaknesses, their likely responses to any given situation. He directs the Space Wolves around him with the authority of one who has commanded armies when the current Great Wolf's ancestors were not yet born. The battle that seemed lost becomes winnable. The counterattack that seemed impossible becomes inevitable. This is what legendary Dreadnoughts provide that cannot be replicated by any other means. They are walking tactical databases, their memories containing the lessons of countless campaigns. They have fought every enemy the Imperium faces, often multiple times across multiple centuries. They have witnessed tactics that worked and strategies that failed. They have seen how alien psychologies respond to different pressures, how heretic forces can be outmaneuvered, how chaos corruption can be resisted. All of this knowledge remains accessible despite the mental decline that inevitably accompanies their existence, because warfare is the one thing that remains clear when everything else fades. But there are costs to every deployment. costs that go beyond the risk of destruction in battle. Every time a legendary dreadnought awakens, fights, and returns to sleep, they are reminded of what they have lost. They see the young faces of space marines they don't recognize, wearing the colors and insignia of a chapter they once knew intimately, but which has changed beyond recognition. They hear new battle cant and unfamiliar traditions. They discover that campaigns they remember as recent history are now relegated to ancient archives. Brothers they served with, led, trained, and loved like family are centuries dead. Their gene seed long since harvested and implanted in warriors who never knew them. Ancient Relanor spent 10,000 years alone on Istvan III, with only his hatred to sustain him. During that immense span of time, he forgot the names of his battle brothers who died in the betrayal. He forgot his own name for long periods. But the one thing he never forgot, the one thing that burned with unquenchable intensity through all those centuries of isolation and madness, was his purpose. He would defy Fulgrim. He would strike back against the corruption that had destroyed everything he loved. That singular focus kept him functional when any sane being would have simply allowed their systems to fail and welcomed the oblivion of true death. When Fulgrim finally arrived, accompanied by Thousand Suns sorcerers, Rylanor put his plan into motion. The conversation that followed, recorded in fragments by the 1,000 Suns who survived, reveals the depth of what 10,000 years of isolation had done to the Ancient. He spoke with a voice corroded by time and damage, but his purpose remained crystal clear. When Fulgrim offered him a new body, promised him perfection and power beyond imagining, Rylanor's response was simple and absolute. He was a servant of the Emperor. He would reject Fulgrim for all time. And then he triggered the virus bomb he had spent millennia preparing. The psychic backlash of that moment, the sheer emotional impact of Rylanor's defiance, moved even the Chaos Space Marines present. The Thousand Suns sorcerer Vistario, able to perceive emotions through his psychic abilities, experienced Fulgrim's unending malice and vanity while simultaneously sensing that Rylanor emanated nothing but pride and honor, qualities that remained intact even through obsessive madness and horrific isolation. In that moment, Vistario declared that Rylanor deserved better than any of them, and he killed his own squad leader to prevent the virus bomb from being contained. It was a Chaos Space Marine's way of acknowledging that he had witnessed something pure, something incorruptible, something that made his own path seem shabby and worthless by comparison. This is the true power of a legendary dreadnought. They become avatars of their chapter's ideals, exemplars of what it means to be an Astartes even when stripped of everything that made them human. Rylanor had no body, no sensation beyond what his dreadnought senses provided, no hope of victory or survival. But he had duty and honor, and a refusal to be corrupted that transcended the physical limitations of his existence. His legend spread far beyond the Emperor's children, or even the Loyalist chapters. Even among the traitor legions, the story of ancient Rylanor the Unyielding is told, usually in tones of grudging respect. The different patterns of dreadnought chassis can significantly impact how a warrior's legend develops. The Contemptor pattern, like the one housing Rylanor, dates back to the Great Crusade and represents some of the finest technology the Imperium has ever produced. These ancient machines are sleeker and more sophisticated than their more common Castroferrum pattern descendants. Their atomantic shielding provides superior protection. Their servo systems allow for greater agility and responsiveness, but they are also incredibly rare, and the knowledge of how to maintain them properly has degraded over the millennia. A Contemptor. Dreadnought is a treasure beyond price, and the warrior interred within one automatically carries a certain prestige simply by virtue of being deemed worthy of such a chassis. The Leviathan pattern, Dreadnought represents the opposite extreme. These massive war machines were designed for one purpose: maximum destruction. They carry weapons powerful enough to level fortifications and armor heavy enough to shrug off fire that would, destroy lesser dreadnoughts. But the systems of a Leviathan place lethal levels of strain on the pilot's mind. The oversized atomantic arc reactor that powers their enhanced weapons and shields also generates feedback that slowly burns out the consciousness connected to it. Warriors interred in Leviathans pay a heavy toll, either with their life or their reason. They are reserved for the direst circumstances, awakened only when the chapter faces enemies that require overwhelming force to overcome. A Dreadnought pilot in a Leviathan chassis knows that every deployment brings them closer to final destruction. The strain is cumulative and irreversible. Yet they continue to serve because that is what they were created to do. Their legend becomes tied not just to their victories, but to their sacrifice, to the knowledge that they are literally burning themselves out in service to the Emperor. When such a warrior finally falls, when the strain finally proves too much for even their enhanced physiology to withstand, the chapter mourns not just the loss of a valuable asset, but the extinction of something irreplaceable. The newer Redemptor pattern. Dreadnoughts used by Primaris Space Marines face similar challenges. These larger, more powerful machines grant their pilots devastating capabilities on the battlefield, but the enhanced performance comes at a cost. The strain of operating a Redemptor burns through pilots faster than older patterns. A warrior who might have survived centuries in a Castra Ferrum might have only decades in a Redemptor before the toll becomes too great. This creates a different kind of legend, one based not on ancient longevity, but on intense, concentrated heroism. These dreadnoughts blaze bright and fast, accomplishing impossible feats in their limited time before burning out completely. The psychological burden of becoming a legendary dreadnought extends beyond the individual warrior to affect the entire chapter. When a hero achieves legendary status while still alive in their dreadnought chassis, it creates complicated emotional dynamics. Younger Space Marines revere them, certainly, but they also fear them. They see in these ancients their own potential future, a fate that is simultaneously the highest honor they could receive and the worst doom they could imagine. This tension manifests in subtle ways throughout chapter culture. Some chapters handle this better than others. The Space Wolves, with their emphasis on sagas and storytelling, integrate their dreadnoughts into their cultural narrative in ways that acknowledge both the honor and the tragedy. Bjorn is the Old Wolf, a title of immense respect that also hints at his nature as something separate from the current generation. He is loved and revered, but he is also recognized as belonging to a different era, a living ghost who walks among them but is not truly of them. This recognition allows the Space Wolves to honor him while also maintaining appropriate psychological distance. The Blood Angels and their successor chapters face additional complications due to the Black Rage, a genetic flaw that can affect even dreadnoughts. When a Blood Angel succumbs to the Black Rage, they experience visions of Sanguinius's death at the hands of Horus, becoming consumed by rage and anguish that cannot be controlled. A dreadnought pilot overcome by the Black Rage becomes nearly impossible to restrain. These Death Company dreadnoughts are living nightmares, raging out of control for days until tech marines can devise ways to disable them. Yet even in this state, they serve a purpose. They are deployed against the most heavily fortified enemy positions, their uncontrollable fury and heavily armored chassis making them perfect for suicide assaults. The legend of a Death Company dreadnought carries a particular tragedy. These warriors achieved enough glory to warrant internment, survived in service to their chapter for what might have been centuries, and then fell to the genetic curse that has plagued the Blood Angels since the heresy. Their final battles are exercises in controlled madness, the chapter pointing them at the enemy and unleashing them like a force of nature. When they finally fall, it comes almost as a relief. The warrior has found peace at last, and the curse has been satisfied. But the legend that remains is bittersweet, a reminder that even the greatest heroes can fall to flaws beyond their control. Consider the deployment of a legendary dreadnought during a critical battle. Let's imagine a chapter facing an overwhelming Tyranid invasion. The alien swarm has consumed world after world, its numbers growing with each victory. The chapter makes its stand on a world that must not fall, a world whose loss would open a corridor for the Tyranids to reach more densely populated systems. The fighting is savage. Space Marines fall in droves against an enemy that learns from each encounter, adapting its tactics with terrifying speed. The chapter master makes the decision to awaken their most ancient warrior, a Dreadnought who has fought for over 3,000 years. The ancient awakens with the characteristic confusion that comes from deep stasis. For a moment, he believes he's fighting in the Badab War, calling out orders to brothers who have been dead for centuries. But the chaplain's patient guidance brings him back to the present, orienting him to the current threat. Once the ancient understands the situation, his entire demeanor shifts. He has fought Tyranids before, on a dozen different worlds. He knows their tactics, their weaknesses, and most importantly, he knows how to deny them the biomass they require to sustain their invasion. The ancient's strategic insight transforms the battle. He identifies key locations where the Tyranid synapse creatures are directing the swarm. He coordinates artillery strikes on biomass reclamation pools, denying the hive mind crucial resources. He personally leads assaults on Tyranid warrior organisms, his power weapons and devastating firepower, eliminating nodes in the swarm's command structure. But more than his tactical contributions, his presence gives the defenders something they desperately needed: hope. The Space Marines see their ancient in action and fight with renewed determination. They have a living connection to their chapter's history, fighting alongside them. They cannot fail while such a hero still stands. The battle rages for weeks. The ancient fights continuously, his Dreadnought chassis requiring only basic maintenance and fresh ammunition to keep operating. He witnesses younger brothers fall, sees squads reduced to single survivors, watches as the chapter's strength is ground down by an enemy that never retreats and never stops coming. But he also sees moments of incredible heroism, sees the traditions he helped establish being upheld by warriors who weren't even born when he was last awake. When the tide finally turns, when combined Imperial forces manage to cut off the Tyranids' supply lines and begin systematically eliminating the swarm, the Ancient knows that he played a crucial role. Without his guidance, the defenders would have been overwhelmed. But the victory comes with a cost. When the battle finally ends, when the Ancient is prepared to return to stasis, he experiences the inevitable crash that follows extended awakening. The memories he accumulated during the battle begin to blur and fade even as they form. The faces of the young Marines he fought alongside become indistinct. The specific tactical decisions that led to victory blend together into general strategic principles. He is losing the experience even as he gains it, the mental strain of extended Dreadnought operation taking its toll. By the time he returns to sleep, he will remember that he fought Tyranids successfully, but the details will be fragmentary at best. This is perhaps the cruelest aspect of being a legendary Dreadnought. The very experiences that should make them wiser, that should add to their legend, are corrupted by the strain of their existence. They fight battles they will barely remember. They lead warriors whose names they will forget. They contribute to victories that will blur into the general background of an existence stretched across centuries. The legend grows with each battle, but the person behind the legend shrinks, worn away by the grinding passage of time and the mental strain of living as more machine than man. The reverence that chapters show their legendary dreadnoughts reflects an understanding of this tragedy. When tech marines anoint the sleeping chassis with sacred oils, when chaplains pray over them, when younger space marines visit to pay their respects, these acts serve multiple purposes. They honor the warrior inside, certainly, but they also acknowledge the sacrifice being made, the slow dissolution of personality and humanity that comes with continued service. They are rituals of mourning performed for someone who hasn't yet died, acts of remembrance for memories the ancient themselves may no longer possess. Some chapters go to extraordinary lengths to preserve the identities of their dreadnoughts. They maintain detailed records of the warrior's life before internment. They compile sagas and battle honors. They tell stories about the person who existed before the machine. These efforts are as much for the benefit of the chapter as for the dreadnought. When the ancient awakens and can no longer remember why they were considered worthy of internment, the chapter can remind them. When confusion and disorientation threaten to overwhelm them, the recitation of their own deeds can anchor them to reality. The legend becomes a tool for maintaining sanity, an external framework that supports an internal structure growing increasingly fragile. But not all legendary dreadnoughts fade gracefully. Some resist the erosion of their personality with ferocious determination. They cling to specific memories, specific purposes, specific aspects of who they were, with a strength that borders on obsession. This can preserve their sanity, but it can also warp them in unexpected ways. They become fixed on the past, unable or unwilling to adapt to the present. They fight battles that are long over, seeing enemies that no longer exist, calling out orders to brothers centuries dead. These dreadnoughts become tragic figures, trapped in an eternal present that exists somewhere between memory and reality. Murder Fang of the Space Wolves represents the ultimate failure of this preservation. This dreadnought has gone completely feral, consumed by uncontrollable rage that recognizes no distinction between friend and foe. The identity of the warrior inside has been completely lost, consumed by whatever triggered his descent into mindless violence. The Space Wolves keep Murderfang imprisoned in glacial ice deep within the Fang, releasing him only in situations where his indiscriminate fury can be directed entirely at the enemy. Once unleashed, he tears through enemy formations with savage abandon, his power claws rending anything within reach. He cannot be controlled, cannot be reasoned with, cannot be returned to even a semblance of sanity. When the battle ends, the Space Wolves must find ways to disable him before he turns on them, a process that grows more difficult with each awakening. Yet even Murderfang has become a legend in his own way. Stories of the Curse-born prophecy and the beast machine that embodies it are told throughout the chapter. Murderfang represents the danger that every dreadnought faces, the potential that isolation and mental strain will consume everything that made them who they were. His existence serves as both warning and grim acceptance. Every Space Wolf knows that the legendary dreadnoughts they revere could become like Murderfang, that the line between ancient wisdom and feral madness is thinner than anyone wants to admit. They honor Murderfang anyway, because he still serves, because he still kills the enemies of the Emperor, because even in madness there is purpose. The actual experience of being a legendary dreadnought, as near as can be determined from the few coherent accounts that exist, is one of profound disconnection from reality. Time stops having normal meaning. The periods of stasis blend together into featureless darkness. Awakening brings disorientation and the struggle to determine not just where you are, but when you are. Battle provides moments of clarity, focus, purpose. Warfare is the one constant that remains understandable no matter how much else fades. But even those moments of clarity are colored by the knowledge that this is all that remains, that your existence has been reduced to brief windows of violence, separated by vast gulfs of nothing. Some dreadnoughts report experiencing dreams during stasis, though whether these are true dreams or simply the confused firing of neurons in sensory deprivation is unclear. These dreams are never pleasant. They involve fighting endless battles against enemies that shift and change. They feature conversations with brothers long dead who offer advice that makes no sense. They replay moments from the warrior's life before internment, but corrupted, changed, wrong in ways that create intense anxiety. Upon awakening, the dreadnought cannot always distinguish these dreams from actual memories, cannot determine what really happened and what was merely nightmare. This erosion of certainty about one's own past is profoundly disturbing, even to warriors who have been trained to endure any hardship. The relationship between a legendary dreadnought and their chapter master often becomes complex and fraught with tension. The chapter master leads the chapter in the present, makes decisions that will affect its future, carries the burden of command. The ancient has done all of this before, often multiple times across multiple centuries. They remember when the current chapter master was a neophyte, or perhaps wasn't even born yet. They have wisdom and experience that far exceeds anything the chapter master can claim. Yet the ancient is not in command. They are a weapon to be deployed, a resource to be managed, a relic to be preserved. The formal hierarchy places them under the chapter master's authority, but the practical reality is more complicated. Bjorn the Fell-Handed embodies this tension perfectly. He was once the Great Wolf himself, the supreme commander of the Space Wolves. He led the chapter for 5 centuries after Leman Russ disappeared. Yet when he awakens now, he defers to the current Great Wolf, offering counsel rather than commands. This deference is both genuine respect for the office he once held and pragmatic recognition that he cannot lead from within a dreadnought chassis. He cannot inspire through personal presence the way he once did. He cannot move freely among the warriors, cannot participate in the 100 subtle interactions that build loyalty and cohesion. He can offer wisdom born of experience, but the implementation of that wisdom must be left to others. Yet there are moments when Bjorn's authority reasserts itself, when his status as the oldest living space wolf trumps all other considerations. When he speaks about the chapter's traditions, about what Leman Russ would have wanted, about the core principles that define what it means to be a space wolf, even the Great Wolf listens with the respect due a superior. These moments are brief and rare, but they serve as reminders that legends operate by different rules than ordinary warriors. Bjorn's legend gives him authority that transcends rank or formal position. He is the living embodiment of the Space Wolves' heritage, and that counts for more than any title. The physical limitations of a dreadnought chassis also affect how legends develop. These war machines are powerful beyond question, but they are not invincible. Concentrated anti-tank fire can penetrate even their thick armor. Powerful melee weapons can tear open their chassis. A well-placed shot can detonate the ammunition they carry or rupture their reactor. Every deployment risks destruction, and for warriors who have served for centuries or millennia, each battle might be their last. This creates a peculiar kind of fatalism. Legendary dreadnoughts know they are living on borrowed time, that eventually their luck will run out, and they will face an enemy they cannot defeat. When a legendary dreadnought falls in battle, the immediate response from their chapter is often desperate and violent. Space Marines will fight through impossible odds to retrieve the armored sarcophagus, to recover their fallen brother, and return him to the chapter's mausoleum for his final rest. These recovery operations can cost more lives than the dreadnought was worth in purely tactical terms, but they are never questioned. The legend demands it. The honor of the chapter demands it. The knowledge that they might one day be the warrior inside that sarcophagus, depending on their brothers to grant them final dignity, demands it. The funeral rites for a legendary dreadnought are profound ceremonies that shake the entire chapter. These warriors have served for so long, have become so integral to the chapter's identity, that their loss leaves a void that cannot be easily filled. The ceremony typically involves the entire chapter, from the chapter master to the newest neophytes. The sarcophagus is opened, and what remains of the warrior's body is extracted, usually little more than a desiccated torso and skull, the organic material having slowly degraded despite the preservative fluids. These mortal remains are given the full honors due a fallen hero, with prayers and remembrances that can last for days. The stories told during these funeral rites serve multiple purposes. They preserve the dreadnought's legend for future generations. They remind the chapter of the principles and values the Ancient exemplified. They provide closure for warriors who served alongside the Ancient in recent battles. And they serve as subtle warnings about the price of the honor of internment. When the chapter recounts how the Ancient slowly lost his memories over centuries, how he became increasingly disconnected from the present, how he finally fell, still serving. Despite having forgotten why he served, the message is clear. This could be your fate. This is what we ask of our heroes. Consider carefully whether you would choose this path, though you will likely have no choice when the moment comes. The Dreadnought chassis itself, now empty, is either placed in a place of honor as a monument or refurbished to receive a new occupant. This recycling of the machine is necessary given how irreplaceable these devices are, but it's also somewhat disturbing. The chassis becomes a serial home for heroes, each one adding their own legend to the machine's history. Some chapters maintain detailed records of every warrior who has been interred in each chassis, creating genealogies of heroes linked not by blood, but by shared steel. The newest occupant inherits not just a machine, but a legacy, a responsibility to uphold the standard set by everyone who inhabited that shell before them. There are, however, legendary dreadnoughts, whose stories don't end with honorable death in battle. Some fall to corruption, whether through chaos, influence, or simple madness. When a revered ancient turns against the chapter, when they must be hunted down and destroyed by the very warriors who once venerated them, the trauma to the chapter's psyche is immense. It calls into question everything the chapter believes about duty, honor, and the rewards for faithful service. If even their greatest heroes can fall, what hope do any of them have? These instances are rare, but their impact is disproportionate to their frequency. The Chaos Space Marine Legions provide a dark mirror to the Imperial treatment of dreadnoughts. Without access to stasis technology and exposed to the corrosive influence of the warp, dreadnoughts, in service to Chaos, often descend into complete madness, far more rapidly than their loyalist counterparts. The transformation into Hellbrutes, where the warrior's flesh melds with the machine in grotesque fusion, represents the ultimate corruption of what a dreadnought is meant to be. Yet even among the traitors, certain dreadnoughts maintain enough coherence to be considered legendary. These ancients have resisted the corruption for 10,000 years, clinging to whatever remains of their identity through sheer, bloody-minded determination. Their legends spread among the traitor legions as stories of endurance in the face of impossible circumstances. The question of whether being a legendary dreadnought is worth the cost cannot be answered objectively. For the chapter, the answer is unquestionably yes. The tactical advantages, the preservation of institutional knowledge, the morale boost, the symbolic power, all of these factors make the continued service of ancient warriors invaluable beyond measure. But for the warrior inside the sarcophagus, the calculation is more complicated. They never chose this fate. When they fell in battle, death should have claimed them. Instead, they were given a choice that wasn't really a choice. Serve forever or die now. Most warriors, conditioned by a lifetime of service and propaganda about honor and duty, choose to serve. But do they understand what they're choosing? Can anyone truly grasp what it means to exist as a dreadnought until they're already committed to that existence? Some warriors have refused internment. These rare cases are typically kept quiet by the chapter, but they do occur. A mortally wounded hero, given the option to continue serving as a dreadnought, declines and asks to be allowed to die. The chapter typically honors this request, though often with great reluctance. These warriors are buried with full honors, their choice respected, even if not fully understood. But they also don't become legends. Their story ends with their death, as nature intended. Meanwhile, their brothers who accepted internment continue fighting, continue accumulating glory and honor, continue having their legends grow while their humanity shrinks. Is this trade worth it? The chapter says yes, the Imperium says yes, but what would the ancients themselves say if they could speak with full honesty about their existence? The relationship between legendary dreadnoughts and the younger generations of Space Marines deserves special attention. These interactions, when they occur, are often profound for the young warriors. They are meeting living history, speaking with beings who have witnessed events they've only heard about in sagas and scripture. The ancients, for their part, often struggle to relate to these young faces. How do you counsel warriors who live in a galaxy you no longer recognize? How do you share wisdom when your frame of reference is centuries out of date? The generation gap is not merely large, it's measured in millennia. Yet these interactions remain valuable. The ancients can share principles that transcend specific tactical situations. They can remind young warriors of the core values that define their chapter. They can provide perspective that only comes from having lived through the rise and fall of entire civilizations. When a young Space Marine is facing a crisis of faith or struggling with a difficult decision, the counsel of an ancient who has faced and overcome countless such challenges can be invaluable. The ancient may not remember the specific details of their own struggles, but they remember the principles that guided them through. There's also a peculiar mentorship that can develop between ancients and exceptional young warriors. The ancient sees in the young marine potential for future greatness, perhaps even future internment, should they prove unlucky enough to be mortally wounded. They offer guidance not because they remember being young themselves, that memory has long since faded, but because they recognize excellence when they see it. These relationships can profoundly shape the younger warrior's development, giving them a connection to their chapter's history that goes beyond academic knowledge. As we contemplate the full scope of what it means to be a legendary dreadnought, certain truths emerge. These warriors are simultaneously the most honored and most tragic figures in their chapters. They have given everything in service to the Emperor, their bodies, their humanity, their very identities. And in return, they receive eternal war and endless suffering punctuated by the blessed darkness of stasis. Their legends grow while they shrink. They become more important to their chapter, even as they become less themselves. They are revered as living saints while experiencing an existence that might best be described as a waking nightmare. The legendary status doesn't make the suffering easier. If anything, it makes it worse. The greater the legend, the more essential the ancient becomes to their chapter's identity, the less likely they are to be granted the mercy of final death. Bjorn cannot be allowed to die because he is the last living link to Leman Russ. His suffering is irrelevant compared to the value he provides to the Space Wolves. Rylanor could not die because his purpose had not been fulfilled. He endured 10,000 years of isolation because his hatred sustained him and because the universe was not yet done with him. These ancients are trapped by their own legends, their own importance preventing them from finding the peace they deserve. Yet they continue to serve. When called, they answer. When awakened, they fight. When their counsel is sought, they provide it to the best of their degraded abilities. They do this not because they have no choice. Every ancient could simply refuse to reactivate, could choose to let their systems fail and embrace true death. They continue because, despite everything, they still believe. They believe in the Emperor. They believe in their chapter. They believe that their sacrifice means something, that their suffering serves a purpose, that their continued existence makes a difference in the eternal war for humanity's survival. Perhaps that belief is delusion, born of indoctrination and conditioning. Or perhaps it's the most heroic thing about them, this ability to continue hoping and fighting when any rational being would have given up long ago. The legendary dreadnoughts of the Adeptus Astartes stand as monuments to duty taken to its ultimate extreme. They are what happens when warriors give everything and then are asked to give more, when sacrifice becomes not a single act, but an endless state of being. They are the price the Imperium pays for its survival. the cost of maintaining humanity's defense against a universe of horrors. Every time a chapter awakens its ancients, every time these legendary warriors stride forth to war, they are spending a currency more precious than any amount of munitions or material. They are spending the sanity, the identity, and ultimately the soul of a hero who deserves rest but will not receive it. When you see a legendary dreadnought on the battlefield, you are witnessing tragedy dressed in armor and armed with weapons of terrible power. You are seeing duty personified, honor weaponized, sacrifice made eternal. These warriors have become legends because they could not stop serving even when serving cost them everything they were. They continue because stopping would mean admitting that their suffering has been meaningless, that the price they've paid was too high, that the honor they were granted was actually a curse. So they fight, and they endure, and they slowly fade away, while their legends grow ever brighter, until finally even they cannot remember why they were once considered worthy of all this. This is what it means when your dreadnought becomes a legend in Warhammer 40k. It means becoming more important than you are. It means having your name remembered while you forget your own. It means inspiring others while losing the ability to inspire yourself. It means serving forever while slowly ceasing to be the person who chose to serve. It means becoming a symbol at the cost of your humanity, becoming an icon at the expense of your identity, becoming a legend while dying by degrees in ways too subtle to notice, until nothing remains but the shell and the story. And yet, in the grim darkness of the far future, where there is only war, perhaps this is the best fate any warrior can hope for: to serve beyond death, to protect humanity long after your body should have failed, to leave a legacy that will inspire generations yet unborn. The legendary dreadnoughts of the Adeptus Astartes have paid the ultimate price, not once, but continuously, forever. Their legends will echo across the stars for as long as the Imperium endures. Whether that makes their suffering worthwhile is a question that cannot be answered. But it is the choice they made, and they honor that choice through their continued service, no matter the cost. If you found this exploration of legendary dreadnoughts fascinating, consider hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel. There are countless more stories from the grim darkness of the far future waiting to be told, and your support helps make that possible. The legends of the Adeptus Astartes deserve to be shared, remembered, and honored, just as the warriors themselves deserve rest they will never receive. Until next time, may the Emperor protect, and may we never forget the price that heroes pay for our survival.